Welcome to the Save Our Sperns campaign, Voices from the Frontline. I'm Morella Fife, your host and a member of the Save Our Sperns team. At the heart of this struggle are the voices of local people, farmers, families and young campaigners whose homes, work and families are rooted in this place. Their voices are joined by supporters from across the world, standing in solidarity, from professors to artists, from those offering vast expertise to those whose presence alone is an act of support. All have stood with us. In this series, we share stories of resistance, resilience, and hopes from those determined to protect these mountains, their land, their rivers, the very air they breathe, and their community. Let's get started. Today, I'm speaking with Mary McGuiggan, who was born and went to school in Derry. Mary's not only a retired primary school teacher, but also a renowned Irish dancer and teacher of Irish dancing. In fact, she even created a brand new dance for our recent Sliella and Save Our Sperns Day of Resistance. She also speaks the native language of Ireland, Gaelic, with ease. But Mary's gifts don't stop there. She has been one of the driving forces behind the Rights of Nature campaign here in Northern Ireland and a founder of The Gathering, a space that brings activists from across Ireland together to share, to connect, and to support one another in defending land, water and community. From the classroom to the dance floor to the front line of environmental justice, Mary has been weaving people together and reminding us of the deeper ties that hold us all. Welcome, Mary. It's brilliant to have you here with us. You've been a friend and supporter of the Save Our Sperns campaign for many years, and beyond that, you've played a central role in setting up the Rights of Nature campaign here in Northern Ireland and in helping to create something very special called The Gathering. But before we dive into all that, let's begin simply. Who are you and where are you today?
Well, thank you, first of all, Morella, for such a lovely appreciation and for your invitation to be here. And who am I? That's a very good question. I'm Mary McGuiggan. I'm originally from South Derry in Balachi, but I live here outside the village of Eglinton near Derry City. I am a teacher. I used to teach in the system. I'm now very grateful to be teaching outside the system. I teach dance. I'm a counsellor. I work with complementary therapies. And I think I'm a mother and grandmother. And yeah.
Okay. And if you were to describe yourself, not in terms of roles or titles, but in terms of what matters most to you, how would you put it?
I think the joy of life. I think I really enjoy being part of, I suppose, bringing joy to other people as well as to myself. I love being out in the garden, and I suppose one of the most important things to me is relationships, is all the relationships I've had for years and all the new ones I'm making, especially through the environmental movement.
Yeah, and it's wonderful how we've met, really, because of the environmental movement and the extended family of friends that's spread out across Northern Ireland, all because of that movement here in Northern Ireland. And as we move on through life, it gets harder to make friends because we're not out maybe as socially as we used to be. And I'm just really glad of that too. I like that relationship angle.
Yeah, I actually think it's the most important thing in any movement or anything. You know, it's that strengthens you, gives you support, gives you courage. You know, you have a skill that you can share with somebody else. They have a skill that you don't have that you can share, and it's just lovely.
Yeah, everything starts with relationship. It blooms from that point, and work cannot be done without relationship. So I agree with you 100% on that. So let's begin with something you've been very closely involved with. You've been one of the people who helped bring the rights of nature movement here to the island of Ireland. And for those listening who might not be familiar, can you explain what it means and what drew you personally to get involved? And why does that matter so deeply for you? So it's a number of questions wrapped up there together.
I know, well, and I think there's a number of answers wrapped up together too. I've always been very involved and very interested in health. I've always been trying to find out what is the healthiest way for me to live, for my family to live, for my community to live, in terms of physical wellness as well as emotional wellness. And because I taught for years within a system, I suppose there was a lot that I was told I had to do, and yet some of it conflicted with how I really felt intuitively. And when I attended a meeting about 5 or 6 years ago in Belfast that was organised by Friends of the Earth and Queens, and met the lawyers, Moira, Thomas and Mary, from USA, I think they're called CDER, I was really astounded to discover that we could make our own laws. And they were advocating that we could make our own laws around nature and that we could make our own laws around communities. And they were calling it rights of communities and rights of nature. And I was really amazed by that. And then I had an opportunity to speak to them again when they came to Derry. And then over the course of the next few years, I heard James Orr from Friends of the Earth talk about it. And I heard it mentioned here and there. And I still was always there as an idea and thinking, well, what is happening about it? And then one day I said to James, what is happening about it? Should we take some action on it? He said, yes. So that's what happened. We ended up having a conversation on Zoom, deciding who we ought to invite. I wouldn't have known who exactly to invite. And then we took a motion to Derry City Council on the rights of nature. And what does rights of nature mean? Well, I'm like everybody else. I'm still finding my way through rights of nature. It's a conversation that hasn't really happened in my lifetime. So therefore, it's like, how do you give nature a right when it really has the right? We shouldn't be. We're not somebody who can give nature a right. But it's like doing our best to speak up for what would the river like, or what would the mountain like, or what would my trees like, or what would my flowers like if I could give them a voice. And it's really interesting, and it's also very difficult. And I think we've got to a place where we're recognising, anybody who's involved in rights of nature, that this is like nature. It just does lots of different things that we don't really know what it's doing. And it's networking in all kinds of different ways that we don't know and we don't understand. And we're doing our best to do the same thing with rights of nature. We have created a declaration for the rights of the River Foyle, and that's given the river a right to thrive, to exist. What does it need in order to live healthily? And I think we all know that at the moment, all our waterways are not living healthily. And yeah, I'm hoping that gives some idea of what I think rights of nature is.
When I think of rights of nature, and it might seem to people who don't move in these circles like an odd concept, an odd idea. But it's not so long ago when women didn't have rights, and people back in the time at the turn of the century, the 20th century, it would have been an incredible idea that women should be given rights and rights to vote. And even before that, then of course slavery, that human beings shouldn't be in slavery, and that slaves should have rights. That would have been an incredible concept. At the start, when new ideas arrive, I think, in community or in society, and it's an extraordinary idea, and it takes, I feel, time for an idea to embed in or to settle in, and for people to get used to it. But hopefully in 50 years or 25 years' time, people will think it extraordinary that there wasn't always rights for nature. We're looking back from our privileged position today, and we as women have rights. We take it as a given. Why wouldn't nature have rights? Just because they're not human beings, but they are beings in the world that supports us supports us through the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and the soil that we grow our food on. It makes a whole lot of sense for a planet to live on going forward. That's my opinion.
No, but you're absolutely right, Marilla. You're absolutely right. And that, I mean, if we didn't have trees, we wouldn't be alive. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah.
And I think even that simple message is good. I was doing a stall here on Saturday with another friend in the village, and it was a Rights in Nature stall. And she had brought her spider plant, but she's also got a little electrical, I don't know what this was, but anyway, it can actually translate what the plant is feeling into sound.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was amazing. And she was saying that her daughter had played the flute to it, and then that the plant had tried its best to play the tune back to her. So we showed the kids this, and we had them and the adults.
That's extraordinary.
And we talked to them about rights in nature, and we planted some seeds. And I think we planted some seeds about rights in nature, as well.
Yeah.
And once you start to explain it to adults, they just nod their heads.
They get it.
They get it because they know they need fresh air. They know they need air. They know they need clean water. And particularly here, because we have the issue around the Maboy landfill site on the banks of the River Faughan from where we get our drinking water. People are very aware of that and very concerned. And then it's the soil, because quite often, I remember thinking at the time, is that, we might own a piece of ground, we might have a grass, but that doesn't give us the right to poison it just because we own it. And I think that's something, those are big hurdles for people to get over, that this is my land and I can do what I want with it. And I think those are questions and conversations that need to happen as well. But again, it's the thinking is out there in some way, and there are other people who know more than us. And because we are meeting people from not just Ireland who are working on rights in nature, we have lots of networking now that we have in place that will help us as we go forward.
Interesting that you bring up that point of owning the ground, and this is a really much bigger conversation. That's how us humans see ourselves on the earth, as owning the ground, when really we have stewardship of it for a number of years before we pass it on to the next generation. But this idea of owning it then gives us pretty much free rein to do whatever we want. And then, as you quite rightly pointed out, then the Maboy dump, which is a dump up in Derry, an illegal dump that's been operating for over 30 years and has everything noxious in it that one could possibly imagine. We'll come back to the Maboy dump conversation in another interview with you in the future, because that's a whole conversation of its own, and I am going to pin you down for that conversation, of which I know you've been very active in as well. Of course, Mary, ideas don't grow in isolation, they grow in community. And that leads us to the gathering. You're also one of the people behind setting up the gathering, which brings together activists from right across Ireland. What was the spark that made you think, yes, this is needed? And what do you think the gathering gives us that perhaps other networks don't right now?
I do think hope is a big thing. I think the fluidity of the group as well. There's no right or wrong. We don't have any hierarchy to it. I'll tell you how the spark came about. I think I've always been very interested in community because I was reared in a community outside Balachi, and my parents were very involved in community work. But I've always, and for quite a while in my life, because of different things I was doing, I was involved in committees and boards, and oh my goodness, I just got fed up with it all. It just took my energy, and had to write minutes, and I just thought, no, it have to be some other way. And whenever we campaigned against incineration here in Derry in 2013, as a reaction to that, we set up a group called Zero Waste Northwest. And I was very involved in the beginning of that as well. And I just wouldn't entertain hierarchy. And I kind of came up with this kind of system. I don't know what you would call it. It's not a system either, of just pods of people talking, and we didn't need to be in control of it. And I didn't know if it would work, but we thought we'd have a go at it. It has worked very well. And then I suppose I carry that with me wherever I go. That's kind of like how I think. And then whenever I was involved in the Maboy, as you rightly said, the Maboy landfill campaign, I met Eamon McCann and Dean Blackwood during that. And I think one day I just got fed up listening to that as well. And I said to them, "Hi boys, I think we should just have a wee meeting on our own and see if there's anything we can do." Now, I had no idea what that might be. I think that I'm probably, I'm one of these people who has ideas and acts on them without actually thinking of what it might mean and what the consequences might be, But anyway, these consequences seem to have been fairly good. So we started to chat. We had a few meetings, and it was Dean actually who said, there are loads of people fighting the same battles that we are. Wouldn't it be really powerful if we could have people from all the different council areas working on planning? And let's have a meeting and just see how people feel. So we had a first meeting. We had 60 people there, and we did a lot of brainstorming during the meeting, and people wanted it to happen again. And it's just kind of rolled on from there, and it has no definite. We keep telling ourselves we can finish it at any time if we want to, because people have changed, and there's been lots going on where, and it's been brilliant to bring new people into it. And yet I feel it's really important to acknowledge those who were involved in it in the first place. So that's really it.
So I'm someone, I've never been involved in any environmental stuff in my life. Why would I go to a gathering?
Because you'll have good fun. Because there's always good crack. I'm very determined to bring in the artistic voice, so we have songs, we have poetry, we have dance, we have all kinds of things, as well as those big conversations. And I think the big one as well is that people get time to meet. It's lovely to meet on Zoom, and it's great to keep the contact that way, but meeting in person is a completely different thing. And also you'll get a hug. You're guaranteed to get a hug at the gathering. And the wonderful thing for me, the feedback is about people feel hopeful, they feel inspired, they don't feel isolated in the way they maybe felt before they arrived, or feel that what they're doing isn't good enough. When they see that we join up all those dots, that whatever you're doing is just as important as what I'm doing, and together we can make this happen. And together we are making it happen.
Brilliant. Looking forward to the next one.
Good.
I haven't, in my shame, I haven't made one yet.
Have you not, Marilla?
Not one. Every time it's been on, it's clashed with a yoga event in my life every single year. But this year, before you ever mentioned that it might be heading down our way, I had cancelled. I said, I'm no longer going to do that. I'm going to go to the gathering next year. Just the two of them always clashed. I don't know why that was. Now, of course, all of this is rooted in the realities we're facing here in Northern Ireland. We've had the threat of extractive projects in Sperrin Mountains, and we're living through this massive ecological crisis in Lough Neagh, which provides 40% of our drinking water. So how do you think challenges like these shape the urgency of the rights of nature work? It's kind of a really obvious question.
Yeah, I don't think we can, at some level, I don't think we can go any faster than we're doing. It certainly does highlight the need for our rights in nature answer to Lough Neagh, I think. And I think it's probably something that we do need to think about a bit more around, having one body or one group and speaking for Lough Neagh in some way. But I think the big thing around, and we learned this in Derry, we took the Rights in Nature motion to Derry City Council, and it's been implemented, or no, it's been adopted, should I say, not implemented. And not implemented, that's what I meant to say. But we realised quickly that it's not going to go anywhere unless we start to raise awareness around rights in nature and what it means. So I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to say what it means, for me anyway, because the more that we get it out there, the more that people will buy into it. I mean, I was talking to James Orr a few weeks ago, and he said to me, Mary, isn't it amazing how many people are talking about rights in nature? You know, whereas 4 years ago, it wasn't in anybody's tongue. And I said, I don't think everybody's talking about it, James. He said, but it's in legal professions, they're talking about the academias, you know. And this is language that, fair play to him, that he kind of brought to Northern Ireland, you know. So I think it's a good umbrella. I think everybody can come in under this umbrella, whereas we're all kind of, I think that's one of the things that I felt very strongly about around the gathering was what the gathering needs to do is support other campaigns, not bring extra work to them, which is why, you know, you had been doing enormous work down in Safer Esperance. You didn't need extra gathering work to be going on as well. And I've always been very careful about that it's only if people feel they're in a right place to do it, do you know, that it can happen or should happen. Yeah. I have been thinking, because I was at an event all week on rights of nature, and I've been thinking it would be wonderful to do a rights of nature action at Lough Neagh under the rights of nature banner, not under any other banner, because I know there are lots of different campaign groups around Lough Neagh, and I think that's fantastic that everybody's doing so much work, but in some way we need to come together. And maybe the Rights in Nature banner is a banner that everybody can come in under.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are so many diverse groups involved, both environmental groups, political groups, ownership issues, and even the people living around, the farmers themselves, and you could call them another group as well. And then you have you've got both sides, the Northern Ireland typical groups, so, both sides of society, and with some people trying to turn it into a sectarian issue. So I think you're completely right. The focus has to switch on not what everybody wants, but what the common concern is. And I would see that rights of nature would be an easy common concern that everyone could say, yeah, I can live with that. I could go with that. And rights of nature comes down to really looking after the air, looking after water, looking after the soil, and everything else falls in behind after that. So I think you're right. We'll have to get that idea out there. In the spirit, that idea of the common concern has enabled us to cross borders with it without any trouble at all. So
can I just say to Morella, just for people who are going to be listening to this, that we have a monthly Rights of Nature conversation meeting, whatever you want to call it, on Zoom once a month. It's on the second Tuesday of the month at 7:30. And if you want to go into the Zero Waste Northwest website and look on events,
right,
or projects, either or, you can find the link for it. So people can join in without having to be sent information about it.
Okay, that's great. And I'll put that information in the show notes as well at the bottom so people can look it up. And when the challenges feel overwhelming to you in relation to rights of nature, what is it that stops you from stepping back? Why do you keep going, and why does it matter to you?
Well, I think when things feel overwhelming to me, it's always a sign to me that I'm tired. Either physically tired, emotionally tired, brain kind of exhausted. And I just take time to rest myself. And, well, I do loads of things, you know, whatever else is going on in my life, get involved in that and just leave it for a bit. And then have a conversation with somebody. I think just having a conversation with somebody and saying, I just feel this is too much. I have no idea where to go. I just shift the energy. And somebody else gives me an idea, and we say, okay, well, let's do that. And it might be something entirely different, like let's just go and listen to the River Vaughan, or let's just go for a walk in Muff Glen. And I always hold on to the fact that I don't have to do this. This is not something that somebody is telling me I have to do, which I'm not very good at being told what to do,
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to know that I have the choice to not do it if I don't want to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
once I think about that, I think, well, that's grand. I'll just leave it for now and see what happens. And I'm a fairly reflective person anyway. When I practice yoga, and but really it's about. I think one of the things I've learned in life is to do what you feel like doing at the time, and if you don't feel like doing it, so I'm very good about asking myself, is this something you want to do right now? And if the answer is no, I go off and do something else, and
Uh-huh.
then inevitably I come back to this thing that I wanted to do as well, but I needed to do it in a particular order.
Okay, yeah.
And music and dance, of course, feed my soul.
That's great. I think I asked this question through most of the interviews, and people have their own ways of coping with different things, and it's just always nice to hear different viewpoints. Now we come to the Republic of Ireland. There's also a movement, a rights of nature in the Republic, with talks of recognising the rights of nature at a constitutional level following a recent Citizens' Assembly recommendations. How do you think momentum like that south of the border influences or strengthens what's happening here in the north?
Well, I think any information like that is good. When you know that there's other people who are thinking about rights of nature, whatever way they choose to do it, it's really important. The Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity was huge, and people here heard the message. I think even the language biodiversity, I know like a number of years ago, I had to question what was biodiversity because it wasn't a term that I
Yeah.
knew that I grew up with. So the
Uh-huh.
language is really, really important of how we spread this information. And I'm also aware that when we met, a group of us met, I think it was maybe about a year and a half ago, to discuss the constitutional issue. And what I learned from that was that a referendum won't work unless a majority of the people know what we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
They need to be educated because the previous referendum was a bit of a disaster. And if you're to have another one on top of that, you're asking for a second disaster. So I think I have come to a place where we just need to keep doing what we're doing. We need to get the rights of nature information out there, continue to educate ourselves, and because it's not as if I know everything or I've got it all sorted. I'm learning just like everybody else, and keep having ideas. I think keep having ideas, keep the contacts going. I mean, we have lots of contacts. We have a couple of councils in the south who have adopted a rights of nature motion, and I maybe say a little bit about that because none of them has been actually implemented in any of the councils. So at the moment, because I've got a new biodiversity officer here in Derry, we have got a working group now working with council to see how we can actually make more inroads into legalising this and making a declaration. And now we're still in the initial stages of it. But I think if we get a template for that, then it might be easier to roll it out along over with others. And then, of course, we have Donegal that are cross border as well, who might as well be Derry, and we might as well be Donegal, and we might as well be the Sperrins, because we're all on the very connected to the River Foyle. And we have just made a declaration, maybe I've said this already, on the rights of the River Foyle at our last gathering in May. And again, we've had the summer off, so we've got to take time to look at that and where does that take us. So that's very exciting. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I think that's really, really powerful.
Be delighted to hear about your new biodiversity officer in Derry and how she intends to give the rights of nature a little bit of teeth, and hopefully implementing it, and as you say, creating a template that other councils could possibly follow in the future. That has to be the way to go, because otherwise it's just another nice title that councils can wave through and say, yeah, we're fulfilling our green commitments and so on. And this is not about greenwashing at all. We have to make it have teeth for it to work, and it's vital for future generations, really.
Yeah, and I think we need to recognise that, that the councillors and the council executive don't understand this either. They passed it, but they, like the rest of us, need educated, and
Yeah.
so this is an ongoing. There's loads of different strands that we can be doing this work, but we have to fundamentally look after ourselves first. I really believe that, and if you look after yourself first, then you do have the energy to give to others.
And Ireland isn't working in isolation. This is part of a much wider global movement. We've also seen links here with international movements like the Community Environmental Legal Defence Fund, known as CELDF, in the United States, who've been at the forefront of drafting rights of nature laws, and the Atrato River Guardians in Colombia, who were granted legal standing to protect their river. How important have these kinds of international connections been for you and for the work that you're up to here in Ireland?
Oh, fundamentally important. I think I mentioned this earlier on in the conversation that the particular lawyers from CDEL, I don't know, I can never remember the acronyms.
LDF.
And they've now changed their name anyway to CDER, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, I know they're called Thomas and Mary. And I know that James Orr has regular meetings with them. In fact, he had a Zoom with them when we were in Carlingford last week, outside the Heritage Centre in the sunshine. I think it might have lasted about 4 hours. So James does amazing work. They're working on how we can make it legal within councils. What is there within council to legalise this? What way do we do it? I have no idea. I have no legal head. So, and James is brilliant like that, because I keep very close contact with him, and he will share, and then we'll look at ideas, and then we'll have a meeting, and then we'll all look at ideas, and then we'll see where we go to from there. So they have been fundamental in this. We had the Atrato River Guardians came over, which was phenomenal. I mean, I could cry about it. It was such an emotional experience at our last gathering in Maville. And we were very lucky that this happened for us. And they were just wonderful. They were just gorgeous. And I mean, I suppose the one thing I took out of that was I asked them what campaign they had run to get the rights, and they said, well, they didn't. That it was given to them. So they were given the legal rights, but they still have exactly the same problems as we have. So they're still having to fight for, and they've got much bigger issues, around their water and their mining that's going on, and the logging, and
yeah. But
they sent me a photograph afterwards with their T-shirt from here with Rights of Nature and Misha and Foil, because the T-shirts that we got printed this year had I am foil as Gaelic.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was really powerful as well. So to see them standing beside the Atrato River with their T-shirts on,
does your soul good?
Absolutely.
Do you think real change will come first through law and policy, or through grassroots communities leading by example?
I don't think it ever comes from the hierarchy. Not that I can speak for years and years and centuries, but listening to other people and reading about it, it's communities that make this happen. I think I think we know this through all the years of conflict that we've had over the last number of years that we've lived through. It's communities that have survived, it's communities that have kept people together, it's families that keep you all together. And really, and honestly, the women are a huge part of keeping family together, relationships going. We have a particular skill where we can network in some particular way and also encouraging more women to get involved and speak and have a voice and know that their voice is just as important as anyone else's.
What do you hope to see emerging from both the Rights of Nature movement and the gathering in years to come?
Well, wouldn't it be wonderful to see that every council in Ireland has adopted a Rights of Nature motion and we're implementing it? Wouldn't that be wonderful? It'd be wonderful to see our rivers becoming free from pollution and having the right to exist and survive in a way that they want to. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see that all of the development that's going on, the developers would see the issues, because they're human beings as well. Those who are Dalradian, for example, those are individuals within that group who are human as well, who are not going to survive on this planet if we continue to do this. So it would be lovely. I think we have to change the mindset. I think we all have to question ourselves, and how are we still continuing to be part of this process that is destroying nature? I think that will bring peace as well. I think people will bring health, because there are so many people sick in this country. And I know we have got lots of issues all around, particularly for forever living chemicals that are here in our soil. But to me, to just see a more healthy population, people are more joyful, people are more peaceful, that we have more, that we do more singing, that we do more dancing. I always come back to singing and dancing.
And why not?
And why not? Well, it just immediately changes a dynamic. If you just say to somebody, let's sing a song, it's like, some people might be very shy about it, but, eventually the joy that it brings.
And if the Save Our Sperns group were to host a gathering next year, what would you most like to see happen in that space? What's the essence of what you'd want people to carry home with them?
Well, I know that Save Our Sperns group are just such an inspiration to all of us. They bring joy wherever they go. They bring ideas. They're welcoming. So I know that you will bring, if you decide to have it, you will bring all of that to a gathering. And like for me, a gathering is about bringing people together fundamentally, creating a space where they enjoy themselves but learn something as well, have a chance to meet others, and go away feeling hopeful, inspired. And I know the gathering in the Sperrins would bring all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's go to work.
Let's go to work. Let's go to work. And you're not on your own. We've got people here to give you a hand, and and so I don't want you to take it on as something onerous. I want you to take it on as something joyful. Yeah. And it's about you. It's not my gathering. It's not my gathering. It's our gathering. So it's what you would like to see happen as well. So you just think about it. Have loads of ideas. We always end up with far too many ideas in the end up, and we have to cut them out, and it's always really difficult because we don't want to cut any of them out. I'm delighted that you feel you would like to have it, or you feel in a place where it's not too much work.
All things being equal, and depending on what happens around the public inquiry, theoretically, we ought to be able to take it forward. So we look forward to watch this space.
Watch this space.
Okay, let's put that conversation down. Mary, before we finish, I have two questions I now ask every guest. First, can you recommend someone who you think we should invite onto this podcast? Someone whose voice we should hear.
I was just thinking about Jackie Lochray, who works for Pink Ladies. I think they're now called Buzz.
Okay.
Who is doing enormous work around the pesticides, the forever living chemicals.
Okay.
Here in Derry, and she would be really, really good to talk to. That's one person I can think of.
That's all right. We'll start with one.
We'll start with one.
I'll come back to you afterwards and get her details off you. Perhaps the most important question of all, what gives you hope?
Well, the sun is shining this morning. That's a good start. Just the wonderful people that I meet on this journey give me hope. To see that the seasons change again. Doesn't matter what we do. Nature's just going to take its own route. I was in the village yesterday. I was actually going to the cash point when I discovered that there were acorns lying on the ground beside it. So instead of going to the cash point, I lifted all the acorns. So it's another little thing for me.
Riches indeed.
Yes. And the other day, just as I got out of the car before I had stole, this just was there. Look at that.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful.
Isn't that fabulous?
Mary's
It was
holding
just
up
lying at the door of my car, and I thought, from little acorns, oak trees grow.
Mary's holding up a branch with acorns on it and autumn leaves on the branch as well. And it's truly, truly beautiful here to look at.
Isn't it? It really is. And things like, like yesterday as well, because I've been so busy doing other things, my garden's got a bit neglected. And I have got so many apples on my apple tree for the first time ever. And I have my elderberry tree. The elderberries on it are just absolutely fantastic, So I have a little bit of work to do there if I would stay at home and use the apples and make chutney or whatever I'm going to do or not do, or give them away just to people because I haven't time.
Fair play to you.
So that gives me great hope,
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Mary McGuiggan, thank you very much for being a wonderful guest on our podcast this morning. Thank you for what you get up to in the world in relation to rights of nature, in relation to the gathering, and for who you be in the world. It really is a pleasure to talk with you this morning.
Well, thank you, Morella. And can I say it's equally a pleasure for me to talk to you. It's been a real joy to have met you in my life, and it's only in the last few years, really, that we've got to know each other a bit better. Thank you.
That was Mary McGuiggan, Derry woman, teacher, activist, mother and grandmother. She's also a joyful person, full of music and dance, who brings that same spirit into the movements she helps shape. Through her work with Rights of Nature and The Gathering, Mary has been connecting people across Ireland, weaving powerful relationships that give strength to us all. What shines through is how she holds together culture, community and activism, reminding us that defending the earth is not just about resistance, it's also about joy, creativity and the bonds we share. Thank you for listening. For the air we breathe, the water we drink and the soil we grow from, together we hold the line. You've been listening to the Save Our Sperms podcast, Voices from the Frontline. Thank you for joining us today. All the links you'll need, from campaign updates to our social media pages, as well as links shared by today's guests and resources mentioned in the conversation, are available in the show notes. Please take a moment to share this podcast with friends, neighbours, or anyone who cares about protecting our land and communities. And don't forget to hit the follow button on your podcast platform. It really helps the algorithm spread these voices further. Together, our voices are stronger. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep standing with the land, the water, the air, and the people who protect them.